So hello and welcome to a bit of a spin-off from a series I do on my main channel. Instead of going over Rockstar Games Lost Media, I'm going to be going over some lost and unreleased stuff from other series I enjoy. So this one's all about Tony Hawk, because for what it's worth, Tony Hawk has a long established career in both skateboarding and gaming alike. Now the same guidelines apply as the main series. This means no fan-made stuff or nothing unofficial, so no mods or YouTube videos etc. Just stuff that's officially from Tony Hawk, Activision, Neversoft or Robomodo only. So let's get into it. If you're more of a devout fan of the Pro Skater series, you'll know that the series derived from Apocalypse, and the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series was supposed to be a downhill racer kind of game. Then Tony Hawk got on board and became the game we all know and love. That is a very condensed version of it, but the point is there is a demo build of the game from before Birdman himself became the face and name of the series. This build is often dubbed the pre-Tony build and was utilising the Apocalypse engine that Neversoft used at the time, and the date of this is supposed to be around 1998 or so, and it's rumoured that this was the build that was shown to Tony Hawk, but that's unconfirmed. Anyway, no gameplay of this exists of course, but only 29 known photos do, which is what you're seeing now. There is a bit of information about this build, and it's said that this build contains Bucky Lasek and Chad Muska as playable characters, and the build is so early it has a mixture of levels that simultaneously made it into the final game, albeit changed up considerably, alongside levels that got completely gutted. What else is claimed is that unlike Pro Skater 1, School was the first level, Warehouse just didn't exist. Now I'll read this next part word for word. This build features on the first original skateboarders in the game, being built a month or two after the Apocalypse build. Slight script break here, but that also means there's probably an even earlier build of this that we know nothing about. But anyway, back on script. There's a hologram of Bruce Willis in one of the levels, and it's the same model from the Apocalypse game. In some of the screenshots you can see early versions of existing levels, or even levels that didn't even make it into final release. The skater and skateboard models still exist in the game files up until Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Now due to how old Pro Skater 1 is, there have been many in-development builds that have leaked online, and a few of these levels that did feature in the pre-Tony build have appeared in these later builds, so we can kinda get a look at them properly. These levels being Downhill, Classic Concrete, Suburbia and Freeway. I also want to clarify that I don't believe Suburbia here is the same as the one that was featured in Pro Skater 3. Now even in the final game there are a couple of leftovers from this build. For example, if you dig through the files you can find a very early loading screen which simply says Pro Skater without Tony's name, also dated 1998 interestingly enough. I'm sure many of us would love to see this build surface because it's probably one of the earliest builds of Pro Skater we'll ever see. So this entry doubles as both Nintendo Lost Media and Tony Hawk, but anyway, back in 2006 Nintendo put up a site dubbed the Nintendo Arcade, and it was home to promote many of their games via Flash games, and there were 38 of them in fact. And because this is an official Nintendo site we're talking about here, as you can guess it was overwhelmingly most of their games first. Stuff like Diddy Kong, Animal Crossing, Mario etc. And where the Tony Hawk aspect comes into this is there is a lost promotional Flash game that was promoting Downhill Jam on Wii. Now the Downhill Jam Flash game seems to have very little traces of its existence. The only bit that confirms it even exists is if you go to one of the archives of the site via Web Archive, you can see it listed on the side. But if you click it, it gives a 404 not found error, and we don't even have a unique icon for it, unlike the other games. Now as I'm making this, 26 out of the 38 have been found but not Downhill Jam, and if you're wondering there are no screenshots or gameplay either. So this is one of those bits of lost media that we really don't have any idea of what it could even be like. Although given the fact Downhill Jam was a racer kind of game, it wouldn't surprise me if this was just one of those kind of racing games to give you an idea what the game would play like. So we've got a bit of non-gaming Tony Hawk Lost Media here. Now I know some of you probably only want to hear about the game and stuff, but to be fair this is Tony Hawk's Lost Media, not Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Lost Media. Anyway, according to Redditor 573v0, there is a missing episode of MTV Jammed, which aired on September 16, 2003. Now if you like me and had no idea what MTV Jammed was because you were about 6 when this aired, it was a show that had a completely spontaneous concert happen in a random location, and had many big names hosting these events. Blink-182, Eminem, Travis Barker, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Goo Goo Dolls etc. They're all stated to have been on this show. And this particular episode, according to the post, had Tony Hawk being the host and the guest of honour. Now the OP claims they're actually at this concert and have been looking for this for about 6 years. And some of you might be wondering, well if it's a concert, what's Tony Hawk doing there? He's not a singer, he's a skateboarder.
So here I am, growing older all the time.
Well, in this particular case it was the band New Found Glory who were there playing the songs, and the OP says they were playing a full high energy set. They were playing the songs My Friends Over You, Understatement and Hit or Miss. Now while the band were performing, Tony Hawk alongside Bucky Lasek and Andy McDonald were performing tricks to the song, even going over the band at one point. Other info given is that the event took place at the band's skate park in Orange, California, and the OP claims it's the best show they ever went to. And to be fair, from the description I've read, it does sound like it. There is only an IMDb page which mentions this, and if you're wondering, that photo is not from the episode, it just seems to be a default one. So an IMDb listing is the only confirmation this thing ever existed. But the OP has been looking for this since 2019, and on the Pop Punkers subreddit, there have been quite a few other people who seem to remember this as well, and even were in attendance too. Now while all the other comments in this thread are just people reminiscing, Redditor More Than a Phase says they met Ian Grushka, one of the band members of New Found Glory. And Ian did confirm the episode did air, but he has no idea where the footage even is. So unfortunately, nothing except that one IMDb page exists for now. Now we have a couple of mobile remakes, or demakes I guess you can call them, of a couple of Pro Skater games. First of all, we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3D Mobile Edition. This isn't Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, it's just another re-release of Pro Skater 1, but this time it's for mobile phones. Not smartphones, but instead the flip phones or whatever we used to see around 2005. The ROM hasn't surfaced and we have one review from IGN and a few screenshots that go over the game. And it does look very similar to Pro Skater on N-Gage. And according to the review, all 9 levels from Pro Skater 1 are here, and the game has 3 modes similar to the original. So for what it's worth, it does sound like a very faithful remake, especially given the fact this was on flip phones. But given this is a phone we're talking about here, the review does mention that playing with the keyboard does make the game rather difficult. And it also mentions the game had online leaderboards too. Now I would imagine the leaderboards are long gone, so I imagine that the game could possibly be found, but the leaderboards definitely not. There's also versions of Pro Skater 4 and Underground 2 which are also lost entirely, with only a tiny amount of pictures confirming their existence. We have about 4 photos of Underground 2 which show off Boston by going off the statue, and New Orleans going off Mardi Gras, and 2 other levels which I have no idea what the hell they could even be. Now Pro Skater 4 on the other hand, we do have a bit more covering its existence, because there are 2 versions of this game. One of them was made by Vicarious Visions and the other was made by Jammed. Now Jammed did make the majority of the Pro Skater games back on mobile. So to avoid confusion of releasing 2 games called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 on the exact same platform, they worked around this by releasing one version called Pro Skater 4 Street and Pro Skater 4 Vert. Now gameplay of the Jammed version was found by Red Rush Fusion, but no download is given at the time of making this video. Anyway, it seems that the Jammed version of Pro Skater 4 is just scaring the level for skate letters and that's about it. Now on the alternative side of that, the Vicarious Visions version of this, which is just playing around in a half-pipe, is archived, but it's busted and doesn't work. Finally, we have American Wasteland, and like the others, only pictures of this exist, 6 of them, and they're somehow in even lower quality than the others. So the final entry is not really a mobile port per se, but it's Pro Skater 4 for the Digiblast. And if you don't know what the hell a Digiblast even is, I don't blame you. It was a failed console that released in 2005 and allegedly only released in a few countries in Europe. Had a shockingly low amount of games made for it, with less than, I believe it's 20 or so being known. As you can tell, there was a port of Pro Skater 4 that was supposed to release on this Digiblast, but as making this, no gameplay or ROMs have surfaced. We only have the literal box for it and supposed singular screenshot. Now according to IGN, the Digiblast version was just a port to the Game Boy Advance version, so we can probably have a good idea of what the game was going to be like and probably play like. But it's unknown if there'd be any new additions or whatever for this at the time new and exciting platform. Now if this picture is from the Digiblast version, looking at the differences we can see that the Digiblast version seems to be lacking a HUD, although this could be cropped. But either way, that's just a look at some Tony Hawk's lost media. Hope you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching and have a great day. I don't know what my next episode is going to be on, but probably something else I enjoy. So yeah, thank you for watching and have a great day.